Hello guys and welcome back to our countdown to Christmas. Today is the 18th of December and we've got another video for you today. Now if you missed yesterday's video, we were talking about the Ghost Ark with 10 Necron warriors inside the Ghost Ark, going up against a blob of 20 Necron warriors, comparing them and doing all that kind of stuff. So if you've missed that, check that one out in the playlist or click the link in the top right of your screen now. Right, as for today's video, we're going to be talking about the Ctan shard of the Nightbringer going up against the Ctan shard of the Void Dragon. So a battle of two Ctan shards. We're going to be checking them out, looking at the advantages, disadvantages, what's unique to both of these units, and I'm going to pick which one I prefer at the end of the video. And before getting into today's video guys, of course if you've not yet commented or subscribed to the channel or liked the video, why not? By doing all those three things you'll be within a chance of getting hold of this box set, which is our giveaway item for this month. Now this in fact is our first giveaway we've ever done, so we're looking to do more of these. Maybe not necessarily over 24 videos that we've done this Christmas, but maybe we do a monthly one or possibly a seasonal one, but let me know down in the comments below if you are enjoying these giveaways. Right, without further ado, let's get on with today's video. So, two Ctan shard, the Nightbringer is 320 points and the Void Dragon is 300 points, so there's already a little bit of an advantage for the Void Dragon because it's 20 points cheaper. Now you will need a separate detachment for every time you take a Ctan shard, just worth pointing that one out. Both of them are monsters, both of them can fly, both of them are characters, although that isn't necessarily a good thing for us, and we'll go on to that in the abilities section of this video. Right, first comparison of the video is the stat line of course. Now there are two stats of note that the Nightbringer wins going up against the Void Dragon. The first one is the strength. The Nightbringer is strength 7, the Void Dragon is strength 6. That's going to interact with their melee weapons, we'll get onto that again later in this video. And the second stat of note is the attacks. The Nightbringer has 6 attacks at a base stat, whereas the Void Dragon has just the 5. However, it's not all bad for the Void Dragon. He's got one stat and something else that's better for the Void Dragon. The first one is the armor save. It's got a 3+ armor save, not a 4+. And the second thing, not really a stat here, but I put it on the screen for you, is the base size. Because it's a newer model, it's got the 80mm base, whereas the Nightbringer has only got the 40mm base, which is obviously because it's an older model. That's going to interact with ranges of things such as your Ctan powers. You've got a larger range because of the 360 going around the bigger base, as opposed to the Nightbringer's smaller base. But overall, for this one, I'm going to be selecting the Nightbringer because even though the Void Dragon's got a 3+ armor save, I don't think it comes into play that often. If someone's attacking one of our Ctan shards, the likelihood is there's at least -1 AP to their weapons, which will put it to a 4+ armor save or the 4+ in one save anyway. So for this one I'm going to go with the Nightbringer. Onto the abilities next. First of all, there's some common abilities. I've got to mention these before we get onto the unique stuff. First of all, Living Metal. I don't normally talk about Living Metal in this series, but for the Ctan shards it's actually very important. They've only got 9 wounds. So being able to regain 1 lost wound in your command phase is obviously very handy. Both of them can do that. Second of all, the Necrodermis ability, which is their 4+ invulnerable save, and also they cannot be losing more than 3 wounds in a given phase. Very nice. The third one is the Enslaved Star God ability. This is actually not a good thing, so they can't take relics, they can't take warlord traits, they can't use the Lookout Sir ability, but they still have the character keyword, so if your opponent selects Assassination for example, these guys are still going to gift your opponent some points. And the fourth common ability is the Reality Unravels ability. If they do get destroyed, on a 4+ they explode, causing D3 mortal wounds to units within 6 inches. There's also of course the Ctan powers. Both of these models have 2 Ctan powers. One is one that you select from a table, there's 6 of them in total, and one is the unique Ctan power, which we're going to go over in a moment. Now before going into the unique stuff, in fact, there are a couple of stratagems available for your Ctan shards. The first one is the Strange Echo stratagem, which allows you to switch your powers, or the Dimensional Destabilization stratagem, which allows you to do an additional power in that phase. It is a random dice roll for the additional power, and even if you have already used it that turn, you can still use it again. Right, so that's the common abilities. Let's get onto the more unique stuff. So starting off with the Nightbringer, he's got the Drain Life ability. So that's the ability to ignore rules that ignore wounds. So for example, Feel No Pain saves, that they're rules that ignore wounds, or even the Necrodermis ability that we just spoke about for Ctan shards. That's a rule that will ignore wounds. Being able to only lose 3 wounds in a given phase, if you're going up against a Nightbringer, you don't get that rule. The second one is his unique Ctan power, which is the Gaze of Death. This one's a pretty good one, I like this one a lot. One enemy unit within 9 inches that is visible to your Ctan shard, you roll 3 dice, any 4+ rolls is D3 mortal wounds per dice roll. So that could be potentially 9 mortal wounds just coming from that one Ctan power alone. That's the Nightbringer. As for the Void Dragon, well, he's got the Matter Absorption ability. So if it destroys a vehicle unit within that turn, he gets to regain a lost wound. Pretty cool. And the second one, which is his unique Ctan power, and it's called the Voltaic Storm. Very similar to a smite attack. On a 2+, you throw out D3 mortal wounds. If it's a vehicle, it'll be D6. Can't be doing it on characters that are nearby other enemy units. But yeah, it's virtually like a smite attack, but a different way of doing it. For me, I can't look past that Gaze of Death Ctan power for the Nightbringer, so I'm going to give that point again to the Nightbringer. Right, on to the weapons next. Let's start with that Nightbringer again. He's got the Scythe of the Nightbringer. This is coming in 2 different profiles. The first is the Reaping Sweep profile. Strength user, which makes it strength 7, minus 3 AP, 1 damage, but you get to make 2 hit rolls instead of 1. That means you're going to have 12 attacks as opposed to 6. Very good against horde units and light infantry units. Now, the bigger one, which is the Entropic Blow profile, which is strength times 2, so that's strength 14, minus 4 AP, and the damage is D6, and no invulnerable saves can be made whatsoever. Really cool. If you combine that with the Drain Life ability that we spoke about earlier, that means no invulnerable saves, no feel no pain saves, no rules that ignore wounds. So literally this thing, if it goes through your armor, you've had it. You're not going to make any armor saves whatsoever. And D6 damage each time, pretty nice. Now minus 4 AP a lot of the time will go through armor saves, but what you need to remember is Armor of Contempt is a thing. So if you're going up against standard Space Marine troops, for example, they're still going to get a 6+ armor save. Terminator's going to get a 5+ armor save, and there's lots of other different units that will probably get a really poor armor save like a 6+, but yeah, most of the time it just goes straight through. I just like the flexibility of this weapon though, going up against horde units, going up against tank monsters, all the big stuff. Yeah, very flexible and very usable. Now, as for the Void Dragon, he does have a ranged attack. It's called Sphere of the Void Dragon. It's 12-inch range, heavy 1, strength 9, minus 4 AP, D6 damage, and if it is a vehicle model, it's D3 plus 3 damage, so an average of 5 against vehicles. Now, even though it says heavy 1, you draw a straight line between your model and their model, and any models that it passes on along the way also gets hit by this attack. So you only need to roll 1 dice to hit, and then anything underneath it does automatically get hit, and the rest you just need to wound for. So it is only 12-inch range, but your Ctan shards are likely going to get close anyway. Also, you've got the option of the Techno or Oracular Targeting Stratagem to automatically wound if you wanted to. That's some way you could use that one, I guess. Now, as for the melee side of the Void Dragon, well, it's got the Sphere of the Void Dragon again. It's a melee weapon as well. It's strength plus 3, makes it strength 9, minus 4 AP, damage D6, against vehicles D3 plus 3. So the exact same profile as the shooting side of the weapon. This time it's in melee with his 5 attacks. Pretty cool. Now, you've got the option of using the Entropic Strike stratagem, which allows you to ignore invulnerable saves the way that the Nightbringer does. Now, you do have to obviously pay CP to do that, and also you're not going to be ignoring Feel No Pain saves, but strength 9 is still pretty useful, and if you are ignoring invuln saves, minus 4 AP is also very useful. Now, a lot of people here at this point forget about the tail attacks. He's got the Canoptic Tail Blades, which is D6 attacks at strength 6, minus 2 AP, 1 damage. Now, they're not doing a lot, but the likelihood is that you get rid of a model or 2 if you roll good with the amount of hits you actually get. Always worth remembering it, and yeah, if you don't get anything, it's fine, it's a bonus. So if you want an all-round beast in every single one of the phases, the movement phase, the shooting phase, the fight phase, then the Void Dragon is definitely your Star God. But if you want one of the best beat sticks in the game at present, then Old 90 is the one to go for. Let's get onto the general purposes of both these Ctan shards, starting off with the Nightbringer. He's an ultra choppy model. He's going to slay any Lord of War model, any Primarch. He's recently started to struggle against demons, unfortunately, because they've got this new demonic save. So it's not an invuln save, so you can't ignore it. So we don't actually have a way of bypassing it at present. So there's a little bit of a struggle with that, but against the majority of the game, he can literally destroy anyone. As for the Void Dragon, he's still fairly choppy, don't get me wrong. He's got the additional phase of the shooting phase. He's particularly good against vehicles and those kind of factions such as Astra Militarum, for example, that heavily rely on vehicle models. And also that base size is going to help out with the range of his weapons as well as his Ctan powers. Now, both are going to distract your opponent very heavily, so expect them to be target number 1 as soon as you start the game. Turn 1, they are going to attract attention. Right, so let's get on to the summary of this video with the advantages and disadvantages, again starting with the Nightbringer. Advantages are, so strength 7 at base, which will go to strength 14 with the Entropic Blow profile. He's got 6 attacks base, as opposed to 5 with the Void Dragon. He's ignoring invulnerable saves, and that's without any CP cost, because the Void Dragon is going to need to use that stratagem in order to do that. He's got the Drain Life ability, of course, so he's ignoring all the Feel No Pain saves and things like that. He's got the flexible melee profiles within his weapon. You go for the Reaping Sweep profile or the Entropic Blow profile, depending on what target you're going up against. He's got a smaller base and just smaller in general, so he's going to be much easier to hide behind obscuring terrain and other terrain features. And finally, his Gaze of Death is very strong. That's the advantages. Disadvantages, well, he costs 20 points more than the Void Dragon. He's got a 4+ armor save, not a 3+. He's got a smaller base size, which is actually going to affect his range 360 degrees. Whereas with a bigger base, you've got a much larger 360 degree range. And finally, there's no shooting attacks with the shooting phase. As for the Void Dragon, well, advantages are he's 20 points cheaper, he's got the 3+ armor save, he's got the larger base size to help with that 360 range, extra attacks with the tail blades. He's very good against vehicles, as we've established with his Ctan powers, as well as his actual unique powers to regain wounds. And of course, he's got that range attack at 12 inch. Disadvantages, well, it costs you 1 command point to ignore invuln saves in melee. He's only strength 6 at starting strength. Okay, that does go to strength 9, but that's the maximum it can get. It can't get to strength 14 like the Nightbringer can. He's got no flexibility in that melee option. It is what it is. There's no reaping sweep alongside the entropic blow like the Nightbringer. And finally, less base attacks. Now I know he does have his Canoptic tail blades as extra attacks, but they are only -1 AP and they are D6 attacks as well. Right, so we have summarised the 2 units now, and we're going to get onto my selection of which one I prefer if I had to make a list around one of these Ctan shards. Now I've definitely got a lot more experience with the Nightbringer than I do with the Void Dragon. And the Void Dragon, to be honest, it hasn't let me down. It's done really well in the games that I've used it, but the Nightbringer I'm very faithful to, and it's probably one of my most favourite units in the Codex. I know I say that often, I've said it about the Command Barge, I've said it about the Scarabs, but this one is also one of my favourite units we've got. It's very iconic, and the fact that you're going through armour saves and feel no pain saves, it literally freaks out your opponent because they need to deal with it. So for today's video, I'm going to be selecting the Nightbringer. Okay guys, so let me know down in the comments below which one you will be selecting. Also remember to like and subscribe to be in with a chance of winning that Combat Patrol box set. Other than that, all that's left to say is thank you all for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.